Hi everyone, I'm Joanna.
And I'm Jenny.
And this is Hyphenated, the podcast about living in the hyphen. Jenny, starting off this journey of having a podcast with you, I have to be completely honest, I was a little concerned at the beginning because I was like two ADHD women having a structured conversation about very specific topics. Like, how are we going to make this work?
You tell me. I still don't know how we're doing it.
I still don't know how we do it. I still don't know how to do it. Well, we have so much in common that it doesn't surprise me that we both have ADHD. But as we've been going through this journey together, it's clear that our experiences with ADHD have been so utterly different. And, now that everyone's posting about ADHD.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, is this like a new thing that it's cool to be all of a sudden? Because I remember getting diagnosed when I was 8 and people thinking I was real dumb and like making fun of me. You recently got diagnosed, correct?
Yeah, last year, 2020, I was 34 years old.
The ripe age of 35.
Or 33. See, I don't even know. I also got diagnosed with a math learning disability at the same time, because why the fuck not? And it would have come in handy when I was failing algebra. But here we are. Now it doesn't fucking matter.
It does not matter.
I'm like, okay, it just like, it confirms. It confirms all the struggles I went through with math.
I grew up in a family where we made fun of our ADD and our ADHD because it was very prevalent. We would sit at a table and my mom, who doesn't have ADD, would be like, I'm going crazy, because no one would maintain the same conversation for longer than a couple of seconds. And then everyone would switch and people would drop
Chaos.
Shit. And it's like, so for me, the Houseman family, like everyone kind of had it. So it was kind of a point of pride.
The Housemans, we Housemans.
We Housemans have ADD and it's okay. We're smart. And like my dad has one of the most intense cases of ADD I've ever seen in my life. Like my dad will be talking to you and in the middle of your response, he'll walk away. Like he'll forget you're talking. But for me, that was normal. I thought all dads walked away in the middle of conversations.
That's just a dad thing. Like they're not supposed to stay for the whole story.
I remember like the first time I brought a friend home or something, like when I was older, to get my dad's attention at the table, I'd said, papi, 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 ba, ba, ba.
So you're
ba.
like Stewie in that scene
like
with his
Stewie.
Mom. Mommy,
and
mommy, mom,
mom.
mom.
And my dad is a very smart guy and very well respected in his field. So like for me, I was very lucky in that when I was diagnosed, I knew that there were smart people that had this, and it didn't mean I was dumb.
Wow.
It was like my family's smart. They're wonderful people. They're highly creative, and it's okay. But the way that I found out I had ADD was I was like failing out of 3rd grade. I could not concentrate. I was sitting in class. I was not listening to anything. I was drawing. I was writing stories in my little book. I wrote so many stories. It's crazy. My mom has these booklets of me like writing stories, but like I was not paying attention. And my 3rd grade teacher literally sat me down in the middle of class while everyone was in the classroom and said like, you have a severe learning disability. And I started crying.
That sucks.
And people made fun of me for it and were like, oh my God, you're stupid. You have a disability. You're this, that, and the other. But thankfully, I remembered my dad walking away from conversations and I'm like, wait, my dad has it too. And he's smart. My brother has it too. And he's smart. Like I was lucky to see it and have people accept it within my family so that it didn't affect my self-esteem. And I'm glad that now it's sort of more accepted and people are more open speaking about it, because back then it was a dirty word.
Which is why I mention it so much now, even to my employers. I have absolutely zero shame. In my case, because I got diagnosed just last year, I went decades clueless, just thinking, well, this is me. I don't know. Shit. But now, and I've told my mom, I'm like, you have ADHD, my friend.
Really?
Because, yeah, I can tell my mom has ADHD. Like, now that I know the symptoms, especially in women specifically, I can now say, if my mom got tested tomorrow, I would be shocked if she didn't get diagnosed with ADHD. But in my upbringing, no one in my family had it, except one boy cousin. And even still, no one figured out that I had ADHD or any signs, because I think also it's a known fact that women know how to mask it better. And I thought, like many people, that ADHD was usually a little boy's problem, because you saw Papito, I don't know, like Timmy, and They were just fucking like off the walls. Like, and they would do bad things to the teachers and bad things to the kids. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not me.
Yeah.
So I never even thought that I could have ADHD or learning disability because I was a straight A student. I could see why people were like, but I would get in trouble a lot for talking. I was a chatty Cathy, okay? Guess what? That's a sign of ADHD in girls. It's less hyperactivity and more inactivity.
Yes, it's being caída de la mata, like falling off the tree, like staring off into the abyss.
Daydreaming.
Not like running around.
Yeah.
The way that girls manifest ADHD is very different than boys, but much like so many other diseases like heart disease, the primary source of research is men or boys.
Yep.
So women weren't being taken into account. Like, you know how many women have died of heart disease because we have completely different reactions and forms of manifesting it. So many women never got diagnosed with it. It's the same with ADHD. The way that we manifest it is different.
Absolutely. But man, like now looking back at my whole goddamn life, I'm like, yeah, duh. Like from a very young age, I excelled in the things that I loved. I was like the teacher's pet in computer class. I was the fastest typist. I knew how to code websites. I loved it. But then that would really piss off my regular curriculum teachers like history and Spanish because they'd be like, what is wrong with you? You do so well here, but then over here, you suck ass.
Yeah.
And yet still they couldn't figure out that it could be ADHD.
I do think that there is also a lot of cultural differences. For example, I have a nephew who is very much like me, super hyperactive, super creative, cannot sit still. But in Latin America, his teachers were like, yeah, he has like a weird ear disorder. Like he can't hear what is being said to him. So my poor sister's like, oh my God, like maybe he's like partly deaf in an ear. And they took him and it's like, no, he can hear fine. And it's like, no, remember his grandfather walks away from conversations? Like this has nothing to do with the physical integrity of your ear. It's just your brain. Like he just maybe isn't listening or he's in his own head.
He zones out.
I think here we have problems within the education system in the States where we praise those that have a very particular type of brain and those that have anything different aren't, those that are the champions of their grade, etc. But in places like Latin America, this whole concept of like medicating or your brain being different and having it be sort of fixed with a pill, like that's not something people do often there. That's a very American thing to do. Like I remember when I was diagnosed, they immediately put me on prescription medication. They put me on Ritalin and I hated it.
It's really intense.
Oh my God. I took it and I was a kid and my parents were like, oh my gosh, should we be doing this to a child? Like, we don't know. And like, I hated it because I didn't feel like myself. My brain just didn't feel like mine. It felt like someone replaced my brain with another brain, but kept my memories. It was like this bizarre sci-fi situation. I didn't know what was going on. Yes, I was like paying attention to everything, but like was so bored because I couldn't escape into my world. And I got depressed.
Wow.
I got severely depressed. It was like 2 weeks and my mom was like, I'm taking you off of this. She said, I'd rather have a dumb daughter than an unhappy one. Like, God bless
Mom. Oh my God, your mom.
And my mom never thought I was dumb. My mom always knew I was smart and thought my teachers were dumbasses for not seeing it. But she said that as a way of saying, like, how you feel about yourself and how you feel will always be more important than the grades that you get. And, you know, I think, Jenny, your experience is so different than mine because I knew what I had, right? I feel like your life is one of those thrillers where at the end you find out who the killer is and it all made sense. Like, that was your life
Jenny
until you were 35.
all along.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was your brain. It was ADHD all along. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me, there was no twist in my life. My life was very clear. I knew it was just a straight drama, but I knew what it was from the beginning. It was very predictable. I knew I had it. So I could, as a kid, like I figured out tricks and I was like trained by tutors on how to think through things. And I did a lot of work to figure out how to make sure my brain's weaknesses were taken into account. But it wasn't until college and I was taking calculus, I was failing. Jenny, I could not.
I never took calculus. I don't know how you did it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I felt like the dumbest person in the world. And then I'd go to my drama class and feel like the smartest person. But like, that's the thing about people like us. Like, people like my husband are good at everything except for like acting, but he's like good at like science, and he's good at philosophy, and he's good at writing essays. You know, like those people that are just good at school.
Yeah.
I had to work to be good at school, but then I was really good at like 3 things, and that's why I'm a comedian, because I didn't have much choice as to what career to have. I wasn't going to go into fucking engineering, you know what I'm saying? There's people that have all these options in front of them, and I was just like, I got like 3.
I know. I'm like, thank God the little fairies from Sleeping Beauty visited my bassinet and blessed me with, she's going to be good at typing. Bloop. She's going to be good at acting.
Voices. Yeah.
And yeah, one day she'll voice cartoons. Bloop, 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 bloop. And that's it. That's, because I truly would have been terrible at most things. Or I just would work in dog rescue. But
I mean, that's great. So, Jenny, how are you liking Pantaya?
I love me a good streaming service.
And I'm honestly so glad that Pantaya is one of our sponsors.
Have you been watching El Juego de las Llaves?
Oh my God. Yes.
Let me tell you, these shows are somehow getting more escandaloso than my abuela's favorite novelas.
Yeah, I can confidently say they're pushing the envelope.
Well, the hottest show on Pantaya is back with another explosive season.
And this new season is sexier,
More exciting.
and way more edgy than before.
Maite Peroni, Marimar Vega, and Humberto Busto are back.
And they welcome the new players, Cristian de la Fuente, Laura León, and Alejandra Guzman.
The game continues with the second season of El Juego de las Llaves.
Streaming now only on Pantaya.
Download Pantaya app from the App Store or Google Play Store.
Or visit pantaya.com to sign up.
And don't forget, it's Pantaya with a Y. You know, I know a lot of listeners would probably want to know what signs showed up for us and what ADHD struggles we have, because I know ever since I started to open up about having ADHD, so many women specifically have written me and said, because of you, I found out I have ADHD and I'm getting treated for it.
It's also so important to understand it, because I'm not of the opinion that it is something that needs to be fixed or adjusted or whatever. I just think it's like having a roadmap for your brain so that you have answers. I don't know about you, Jenny, but like I felt so unfeminine because I had terrible handwriting. I was really, really disorganized. I couldn't follow a recipe. Like all these like stereotypical female things that obviously aren't female necessarily, but like that's what society tells us. I'm bad at laundry. If I opened up my freaking drawers right now, I don't want to show you my drawers because they're just a mess. Tampons in the bottom with like pencils and like weird tickets from like Coldplay in 2008.
Coldplay tickets and tampons.
Yeah, Coldplay tickets and tampons,
But
man.
you've got everything you need. You've got everything you need in that drawer. Hello, that's like a fucking drawer for success. I don't know about you. Like just yesterday, I was like, why do I have 11 nail clippers?
Oh my God, I have so many nail clippers too.
Why?
I don't know. I don't remember buying them.
Like having ADHD is like the Twilight Zone. We're like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Like, how did I get here? Like you walk into rooms, you're like, and it's that meme with all the fucking math equations.
You know those like online tests you can do to see if you have ADHD? One of them is like, do you have more than 7 nail clippers? You have ADHD.
I found myself many times prior to diagnosis like crying over the same stupid sexist shit. I'm like, I'm a terrible wife because I can't cook and I'm disorganized and I lose things.
Jenny, that makes me feel so much better about myself. Oh my God, thank God you're like me.
No, we're the same.
I had an insurance on my phone for lost phones. Okay, they thought I was doing insurance fraud because I kept losing my phone. So they thought I was reselling my phone. And I'm like, no, bitch, I lost my phone 4 times in a year. Like, and so
it's
I'm
called
barred
ADHD, bitch.
I'm barred from having phone insurance, okay? Because I've lost my phone so many times. I have, you know what my phone has? Clips so that when I'm like out or at home, I clip my phone on me like a leash so I don't lose it.
Well, no, you're going to do the same thing to your future child. Sorry, those little fucking rubber ducky fucking, they make it look cute, but it's still terrifying to see it.
Having stuff like ADHD, like there's like the diagnosis and the understanding of like, oh, that your brain works different. But then there's like all these societal expectations for what we think people are. And I think knowing you have it makes you feel like it's not that I'm bad at something. You know, I went through like such a phase of talking myself down and hating parts of myself. Like, because this has been my life since like I can remember, is letting myself down and being embarrassed about it, because I've like suffered from this goddamn losing all my shit, my laptop, my iPad, my podcasts, losing my podcast. I did not lose my podcast.
We're here.
That
right
is an
here,
esoteric
Joanna, we're right
concept.
here. You did not lose us.
I'm about to lose it now because people are like, you know what? She might lose it. She might lose Hyphenated, and we can't trust her with it.
It's going to end up in that drawer with the tampons and the Coldplay tickets.
2007 Coldplay tickets.
That was a good year for Coldplay. It's a good year.
It was a really good year.
But what you just described is something that I learned is that people with ADHD have an issue with object permanence. It's out of sight, out of mind. That happens to me with text messages all the time as well.
Jenny, what the fuck? Are you serious?
Yes.
Jenny, my friends hate me. I have 351 unread text messages. I forget.
Yes.
People think I'm ignoring them. I just forget it's there.
I hate it because I'm also an empath and I'm so sensitive to hurting people's feelings because I'm sensitive and I feel like trash. Now, here's the thing. Thank God that most of and some of my friends also have ADHD, so we all just fucking vent and laugh about it with each other.
You guys just like all ignore each other's text messages for 7 years. And then it's like,
that's why I'm so understanding. Like, and it doesn't mean that I don't care. It doesn't mean that I think I'm better. Like, or we forget faces and names very easily. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and it has nothing to do with us not caring about that person or thinking that they're not important enough to remember their names. I just have ADHD, but I have had issues with some friendships in the past, and some friendships have even ended because of my ADHD, because there's this expectation of you as a friend, and if you don't meet all these expectations, you're a bad person, you're a bad friend, you don't really care about them, you're just super flippant about their needs, and it breaks my heart because that's not the case. Like, anybody who really knows me knows how much I care about all my friends, and that doesn't necessarily mean my best friends. I care about, like, people deeply, even our listeners. Like, that's just how I am. I'm very connected to people, and so it hurts when people feel like I'm being shitty towards them, and it's due to how my brain operates.
And all of these things used to really get me down and make me deeply just insecure, and they still do. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't.
I'm still super insecure about it.
But I also want to recognize, and this is what I've been trying to do, is that without the brain I have, like, I couldn't do what I do. And I couldn't be as creative and find the solutions, like creative solutions, and be wacky and think of insane ideas and improvise the way that I do. Mm-hmm. So like, there's all these things that make me insecure that are kind of linked to this, but I would never, ever give it up, because a fish doesn't know it's in water. Like, I know for a fact that now that I sort of can understand my brain a little bit better, now I can understand that a lot of what I value about myself is also linked to the way that my brain works. And you can't change pieces of your brain one way or another, like, and pick and choose. Like, you got your brain. There's bad parts, there's great parts. And I can live with leaving cabinet doors open, and I can live with not being good at texting my friends back, and I can live with losing my passport in Mexico for the 4th time, having 10 nail clippers. As long as I know that there's great parts to my brain too. And it's about balancing those things and knowing how to manage them.
ADHD in today's society certainly has so many obstacles and challenges, and me being a recently diagnosed person, I feel like I'm still going through the stages of, like, grief, I guess, like accepting it. Like, there's days that I remember just a few months ago, I was just crying in my bed, just staring at the ceiling going, why am I like this? Because I felt like how am I going to really make it in this industry as a writer if I struggle so much with focus and I procrastinate? And I also think because ADHD studies only just now in the past 6-7 years started focusing on adult ADHD. Prior to that, it was on hyperactive little boys. So now there's more support behind it. There's more conversations about it. I feel less alone. Like you're saying, you're seeing all these people on TikTok fucking talking about ADHD and neurodiversity and neurotypicals and autism and the spectrum and all these things that I didn't fucking like. I feel like it came right on time because I just got diagnosed and then all of a sudden everyone's talking about it. So that's convenient. But I was researching because I want to feel better about having ADHD, you know, because fuck, society truly is not built for us, especially this industry. And I did some research and it turns out that like back then during the caveman times, ADHD was a optimal survival, like not skill, but like it was a lot of people survived. If you had ADHD, you were the better hunter-gatherer. And therefore, you had more chances of survival. A lot of the ADHD qualities benefited cavemen back then.
But wait, Jenny, like I I know that you're more recent in your journey, right? But like, I mean, I think that ADHD is also, I mean, I understand that society is not built for people that like drop their shit everywhere. I get it. But there's also reasons why so many people with ADD and with ADHD end up in the arts and are editors and are actors and are performers. And it's because our brains are hyperactive and like we make connections other people don't. So many of my friends that do improv have ADD. Like I think that's why I'm saying I don't like it being called a disorder. It really annoys me, and not in like I don't have one. Like you can say I have a disorder, I won't take it personally, but I just don't think it's a disorder. I think it's just a type of brain.
It's a type of brain. That's where neurodiversity comes in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine not having ADD? Like, I don't even know what that's like. Like opening up my drawer. Every time I open it for emphasis on my part, I look at it and it gives me anxiety because it's so messy. And then I open my husband's sock drawer and it's color coordinated. And I'm oh God.
Those are areas, you know, because I don't want our listeners to be like, oh, well, you know, you can't just say, oh, I have ADHD. Oh, well, mm-hmm. Like I've busted my ass. Like I now Marie Kondo the shit. My socks are all neatly folded. Mm-hmm. This is a new me, okay? But there's certain things that I've gotten a lot better at. I don't lock myself out of the house as often.
Good job.
I haven't locked my keys in my car in many years, but I used to do it like fucking all the time.
Right.
You know, so there are things that I try to work towards. I've hired an ADHD coach in the past. I'm still on my medicine journey because I still do feel like I desperately need medical help, like medical help with it. I've tried Adderall. God, it's a freaking crazy drug. It works though, which is what I hate, but there's so many side effects that I really dislike about it, which is why I stopped. But there are areas that I'm like, I just need that extra electricity in my brain to really power through, to get better at memorization, to get better at retaining things. It just, you know what it is? The way I feel right now with my brain is kind of like how one would feel with astigmatism and not getting glasses. So
right.
You can see things, but your eyes have to work so much harder to read, and you're straining your eye muscles and you're actually making your vision worse. That's what I feel like a lot of the time with my brain right now.
Okay, so Jenny, like I lose shit, I lack focus, I'm hyperactive, I can't sit still, and I tend to talk a lot. Like, but what other things for people out there that may be thinking they have ADHD, like what other parts of ADHD are like lesser known?
So there's something called emotional dysregulation. It's actually a core symptom of ADHD. It's when you have overblown reactions, to a small setback, right? And for me, I just thought I was a dick for the longest time when it came to this. For example, since childhood, if someone promised me, hey, we're going to go to the mall and we're going to get ice cream, and then last minute the plans were canceled, I couldn't handle it.
Wait, really?
I couldn't handle it. I would get so mad and I would cry because I looked forward to it so much with all my heart that canceling it just ruined the rest of my day. Mm-hmm. And I still can be like that, but now I'm more aware of it. And obviously I'm older, more mature, but there's still a part of me, if plans get canceled.
You know what I think it's linked to? My family laughs at me because minor inconveniences set me off. Like,
yes.
The doctor was like, you're missing a cheek and you're going to go through like several stages of surgery. And I'm like, wow, that's tough. Okay. But then it's like, I ordered shoes and they're not going to be there for the wedding I'm going to. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. My fucking platforms. Like, why? I think it's because like problem solving things that require a lot of different steps. It's very daunting to me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I'm like, oh my God,
that has to be it. But people think that we're a bunch of brats. They think like, wow, first world problems over here, Veruca Salt. And so now I'm very self-aware of it, and I just keep it to myself. But that doesn't mean I don't feel it. I feel it very terribly. I'm like, ugh.
I've controlled it so much too. I'm like, yeah, I'm chill. And inside I'm like, oh my God.
It's the typical like, no worries.
No, like when a flight is delayed, nothing is going to happen to me. I'm not going to die. I'm just going to get to my hotel an hour later. I obsess. I'm like, an hour gone. And then when I land, maybe there's going to be a little bit more traffic, which means it might be a little bit longer, which means that what I had planned for the day, which was I was going to get there and then I was going to do my to-do list, is going to be later. It's going to be later. And then what I'm going to do, I can't do, And all of this as my face is just like staring into the abyss, and it's just like, oh, what a peaceful woman. And it's like, no, she's actually disassociating.
It is so real. People with ADHD feel emotions more intensely, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, again, women often get just dismissed with like, you just have anxiety or depression.
Right.
And our hormones come into play too, by the way, because I'm way more forgetful around my period. Another thing that's very common with ADHDers is something called rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Oh my God, these words are so complex. Like, what is it?
Okay, so it's basically extreme emotional sensitivity and pain triggered by the perception that a person has been rejected or criticized by anyone, really.
So being hypersensitive, like being sensitive.
You're triggered by feeling like you're falling short, failing to meet your own standards and others' expectations. Even just last week, I'm in this writer's room and I like pitch something and the creator's kind of like, meh. And once again, I look super chill on the ass. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's fine. I'm just a professional writer over here. I'm just going to keep going with my life. And then I come home and I cry to my husband.
Yeah. But wait.
I'm not supposed to be here. I'm terrible.
But I think that's like, maybe that's part of like the post hoc fallacy, in my opinion, because I don't know if it's ADHD that causes that or it's living with ADHD in a world where you are constantly falling short because you just work differently. We've let ourselves and school and teachers and friends and stuff down just by existing, that we're hypersensitive to it because we don't mean to.
I mean, there's just so much more. Again, I'm only just learning all of this now. There was even something else. Oh, here it is. I have severe insecurities around how I sound when I talk. And I'm not talking about my voice. I'm talking about stringing coherent, intelligent sentences together. I struggle with this on a show that I co-host for What's Up Disney Plus. And I do think I'm a very good host. But then when I go off script, 9 out of 10 times I feel like kicking myself after I hear what just came out of my mouth because it kind of doesn't make sense, because I have all these emotions and I know exactly what I'm feeling. And then when I try to verbalize it, I sound like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, what was that? I'm like, I don't sound intelligent. What is this? And a lot of it has to do with like expressing like emotions and what's going on in your brain. So there's a name for that, apparently.
That's incredible.
It's called alexithymia.
Alexithymia, what a cute name. There's a kid in Brooklyn who's called alexithymia.
I'm sure. Alexithymia. But it's basically a broad term to describe problems with feeling emotions. And my whole life, like my husband and I, when we first started dating, like, I would always use words like, you hate me, don't you? He's like, oh my God, I don't hate you. And I'm like, I don't mean like hate.
But I know what you mean. Like I'm that way where I've gone to therapy since I was so young that I know how to communicate my emotions and through a lot of, I guess, coaching and stuff, I think I know how to communicate all right. But really strong emotions, when I'm at a peak, I go to the extremes.
Yes, extremes.
Oh, you hate me because I'm a piece of shit. And it's like, I mean, you just haven't cleaned the bathroom and I'd like for you to clean it. Like, it's really...
yeah, I go to the oh my God, what was it? Like, my husband and I, thank God, we barely fight. But even still, this was like some months ago, I was being real bitchy. Like, I was just being very PMS. And so then I went upstairs to do some auditions or something. And then I came back downstairs and he was gone. He was just fucking gone. And I was like, that's it. I pushed my husband over the edge. And I was like, he's gonna leave me. I knew it was gonna come. And then... bless his heart, I text him like, where are you? And I was expecting like a fucking paragraph of like, Jenny, you know, I've just had enough. And he's like, I went to go buy you cookies.
Oh man, what a little angel. What a little angel.
El pobre hombre, he doesn't have a single medical condition or psychiatric illness.
He's
Conmigo, the Crohn's caca disordered, PMDD, anxiety, fucking ADHD.
Just put a bunch of letters together. Just string them together. ADPPD, CPQR, TTS, ZZQ, ZZ Top.
ACDC. Don't be scared, you guys. ADHD is a fun condition, and it's fine that you have it.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I want people to stop talking about these things in a way that makes them afraid of like taking on the world. Like, oh, I have all these things and now I can't. Like, fuck that. Like, this can be your goddamn superpower. Just like, fucking go for it, motherfuckers.
I know what you mean. I don't want people to feel like they can't accomplish and succeed everything that they want and more because of a disability of any kind, of a disorder of any kind, of a mental illness of any kind. It certainly comes with a ton of challenges and obstacles.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. And that is why I think it's so important to talk about it. That's why I'm so open about it. On my socials, I'm open about it with my friends. I'm open about it with my employers because people need to start learning and accepting what neurodiversity is. Our brains just work differently. It does not mean that they are less than. Be mindful in schools and in the workplace that not everyone is a neurotypical person. And it's accessibility at the end of the day. With the Disney show that I host, for example, yes, I'm still very down on myself, but thankfully they've been so understanding and so supportive despite that. And I'm very open with them about my ADHD and I'll crack jokes and stuff like that. But I think it's just important to spread awareness, and that's going to create more empathy and understanding around people who are considered neurodiverse. Right now, society has this thing of like, you have to act quote unquote normal, whatever the fuck that is. And if you don't, then you're dumb, or you're not a good friend, or you're not a good employee, and you're not, the list can go on. And that's just not the case. And there needs to be more education surrounding that.
You know, I think boomers really did not accept therapy very well. And then I think us millennials, we have been more open towards therapy and understanding ourselves and being more introspective. And then we have Gen Z. They're open with it. There's no shame, right? Which is cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah, they're very open about their identity.
In every single thing. And
I look up to them for that reason. I'm like, good. I'm so tired of this culture of like, I know, quédate callado. Like, don't tell people your problems. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bitch, please.
Can you imagine? I was thinking about this. Growing up, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera saying that they suffer from something like that's impossible. But now we have Billie Eilish saying openly that she struggles with Tourette's and from anxiety and from depression.
Yeah.
As someone who was diagnosed as a kid, went through it in college and in high school and like felt not isolated, but felt sort of like, oh, I was a weirdo, to now opening up my TikTok and every third For You video is like, I have signs you have ADHD. I'm like, oh my God, what a difference. Like, what a...
I know.
Como que cambio más grande. Oh,
I
sorry.
know.
I just scratched a scab and now I'm bleeding.
Joanna, you have ADHD. Your caveman instincts should kick in right now.
Right now, where's my axe? I'm gonna kill the mosquito that bit me.
You need to skin the flesh of a squirrel and place it over the scab.
Oh my god. Jenny, I think you're the good caveman. I don't know. I would be afraid to kill anything. I think it'd be like, oh my god.
Girl, I saved a black widow spider. I'm not killing anything either. I'm the hippie caveman. I'm like, beautiful killer spider, come with me. I didn't hold it in my hand.
Knowing us, we will go on a tangent for another hour.
What are we talking? Let's just talk about animal rescue now.
I don't even know what was this episode about?
I saved a white ladybug yesterday.
Like albino?
Apparently white ladybugs are real. They're not considered albino.
Wait, really?
I feel really special.
La serie más caliente en pantalla regresa con otra temporada explosiva.
Tenía una familia, un esposo.
Más emocionante.
Siempre quisiste ser libre.
Y mucho más atrevida.
¿Estás segura de que no te pondrías celosa?
Maite Perroni, Marimar Vega y Humberto Busto le dan la bienvenida a los nuevos jugadores. Cristian de la Fuente, Laura León, Alejandra Guzmán.
Y para eso es el juego de las llaves.
El Juego de las Llaves segunda temporada estrena el 16 de septiembre. Solo en pantalla.